All right, in this video we are going to learn another method for solving quadratic equations. Now if you remember back in week 21 and 22, we used factoring, all the factoring stuff that we did even last semester and the beginning of the semester to solve quadratic equations. So methods of solving quadratic equations, you could factor them. We've already learned this method. Okay, so factoring is one. Well, what if you can't factor something? What if you, let's say you get something like this and you can't factor it? Well, today I'm going to teach you a second method to solve the quadratic equation. And that method is called using the quadratic formula, okay? So this is the second method that we're going to use today, the quadratic formula, okay? Now, I don't know if you remember back in week 20 when we did the star method. If you want to go back and look at week 20, you can. But when we were learning the star method, I had you identify this form and what the A and the B and the C were when you looked at something like this in this format, okay? This is also in this format, okay? It's just, I might ask you, what is A, what is B, and what is C when you look at this, okay? Something like that. So we're going to have to identify what the A, the B, and the C are again. Now, you remember the star method, that's what we had to do. We're going to have to do the same thing for the quadratic formula. So you're probably wondering, what the heck is the quadratic formula? Well, here it is, okay? If you have something like this and you're trying to solve for x, first you identify what A, B, and C are. Once you have identified A, B, and C, x is equal to, and here it is. And it's kind of maybe intimidating at first, but it's negative b, so the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, the square root of b squared minus 4ac, that's a times c, and this whole thing all goes over 2a. All right, this is the quadratic formula, and this is something that you will use all the time in math when you're solving quadratic equations. Whenever you cannot factor something, guess what? You use this. And most of the time, people even default to this thing just because they don't want to spend the time trying to figure out whether or not they can factor something. So this will work every single time. How you actually got this formula is a totally different question for another class. But number one, we are going to use the quadratic formula up here, right here, to solve it. And you should memorize this thing. This is so important in algebra. This is like one of the main things in algebra that you need to know. It's the quadratic formula right here, okay? So here we go. We're going to use it. Now we're going to identify our A, B, and C first in number one. So number one, we got A is 1, B is 1, and C is actually negative 12. Okay, so we have to go A is 1, B is 1, and I want you to write this out like this, okay? So identify A, B, and C like this. And C is negative 12. Now we can know where to plug things in, okay? So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to copy it, paste it down here, and then we're going to bring it down with us as we use it. Okay? So x equals negative b. That's the opposite of b. So that would be negative 1. Okay? We just got to figure out where they go here. Negative 1 plus or minus the square root. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to color code this. So you can keep what you wrote down. That's totally fine. That is totally fine. I'm going to color code this though. How am I going to color code this? Should have thought about this before. Okay, just so you can see what's happening here. I'm going to say A equals 1. Okay, and they're all kind of different. I mean, it's like it is what it is, but B equals 1. And then C equals negative 12, okay? I'm going to make this black. The x's are black, right? So x equals, so the negative of b, right? So whatever b is, in that case it's 1. So the negative of 1, and that would be plus or minus the square root of b, that would be b squared, right? B squared minus 4, and then you've got your a and you got your c right here. And then this whole thing all goes over 2 times a. Okay, so let's put in things we need to put in here. So the b's, let's put in our b's. B goes here and here. B squared minus 4a, what's a? A is 1 as well. Okay, and then you got our c, which is negative 12. So c goes right there. And then you've got 2a, so we already know a is 1 as well. And that was pink. Okay. So that is how we use the quadratic formula. You can see where the a, the b, and the c went when we use the formula. Now let's solve it. Okay. So we've got negative 1 plus or minus the square root. Now you know how to do square roots. 1 minus, so that's negative 4 times negative 12. That's positive 48. All over 2. So that would be negative 1 plus or minus square root of 49. It's 48 plus 1 all over 2 equals negative 1 plus or minus 7 over 2. So really these are our two answers, right? However, because why do we have two answers? Well, one's plus and one's minus. So basically we've got the positive 1 over 2 equals, well, negative 1 plus 7 is 6 over 2, which is 3. Or we've got negative 1 minus 7 over 2 equals negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. So those are our two solutions that we got from using the quadratic formula. 3 or negative 4 for the value of x. Okay? That's how that works. That's where the two solutions come from. One is plus and one is minus at the end right there. Okay? Now, we could have also factored this thing, okay? But we use the quadratic formula for it. Some you cannot factor, like the one we're going to do in a couple questions. All right, so let's use the quadratic formula again. It's worth memorizing. Let's take this thing down here so that we remember it. Don't forget it. There it is. Okay. So we're going to plug and play here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so let's identify our a. Our a is 3. Our b is 1, positive 1, and then our c is negative 2. Okay? So where do all our c's go? Now we got one c over here, so I'm going to put that negative 2 right there because that's where c goes, right there. And then my negative b, so where's b? There's 1, right? So let's put all my b's in. Here, one b goes there. Find a b right here. So there's that b right there. And then negative 4, I got two a's. Where are my a's? Right here and here. And a was 3. Okay, so 3 goes there and 3 goes right there. Okay, great. Now let's just evaluate this thing. All right, so it's -1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared, which is 1, minus 4 times +3, that's -12, times -2 is +24, all over 2 times 3, which is 6, equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 1 plus 24. 25 over 6 equals -1 plus or minus 5 over 6. Okay? And if you want, you can leave your answer kind of like this. I mean, I don't really mind a whole lot. You can figure it out too. That's fine. So x equals was -1 plus 5 is is 4. 4 divided by 6 is 2/3. Or -1 minus 5 is -6. Divided by 6 is -1. So those are our two answers that we got from looking at this thing, okay? The plus version and the minus version. Okay.